Good Thursday morning, and thank you for being with us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to the breaking news this morning. Border Czar Tom Homan says immigration enforcement operations on the ground have been successful and that Operation Metro Surge should conclude.
And success that has been made arresting public safety threats and other priorities since this surge operation began, as well as the unprecedented levels of coordination we have obtained from state officials and local law enforcement. I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week and will continue to the next week. We have a lot of work to do across this country to remove public safety risk who shouldn't even be in this country, and to deliver on President Trump's promise for strong border security and mass deportation. Law enforcement officers drawn down from this surge operation will either return to their duty stations or be assigned elsewhere to achieve just that.
Homan says a small footprint of agents will remain to help wind down the mission, and that it helped greatly that the state coordinated with the feds to target criminals in the country illegally and take them into custody. We're also live from the Capitol Hill this morning for a hearing on how Minnesota officials are cooperating with ICE agents. It just got underway at 9 o'clock. Several local leaders are expected to testify, including House Majority Whip Tom Emmer and Attorney General Keith Ellison. Audrey Russo is in the newsroom with a breakdown of what we can expect.
Good morning. Yeah, we're expecting House Majority Whip Tom Emmer to accuse top Democratic leadership in Minnesota of not cooperating with federal ICE officials, blaming them for the unrest during Operation Metro Surge. Now, at that same hearing, we'll likely get a rebuttal from Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison and from the head of corrections, both of whom have been outspoken on how ICE is operating in the Twin Cities. And this is a big week for Homeland Security, as it risks running out of funding tomorrow, leading to a shutdown of the agency on the 14th. Now, Democrats demand a universal code of conduct for ICE agents and tighter rules around warrants before signing off on any DHS funding bill. They'd also like to see ICE agents not wear masks during their operations. Now, if DHS shuts down, ICE operations would continue, at least for a little while, using funding from last year's Big Beautiful Bill. Now, the shutdown would impact other agencies under Homeland Security, including TSA, FEMA, and certain cybersecurity programs. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you very much. Exclusive new poll numbers from KARE 11, NBC News, and the Minnesota Star Tribune show most Minnesotans disagree with President Trump's border policies. 31% say they strongly approve, 10% somewhat approve, 6% somewhat disapprove, and 53% strongly disapprove. Meanwhile, public opinion on local leaders is split here. Respondents were about 50-50 on Governor Walz, who is not running for re-election. U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is running for governor in his place on the Democratic side, has a better approval rating, around 54%. Meanwhile, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, his approval is slightly over 50%, with 25% strongly approving and 26% somewhat approving. Right now, law enforcement combing through more than 4,000 tips on the potential abduction of Nancy Guthrie. Arizona police now expanding the search for her. Alice Barr is in Washington with the latest.
Hi there. 12 days into the Nancy Guthrie investigation and a week since the last press briefing in the case, investigators are sifting through a mountain of tips and following some new leads that could prove critical. Investigators tracking new leads this morning in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, with our Tucson affiliate KVOA reporting that authorities found a pair of black gloves as they expand their search and have sent them in for DNA analysis. KVOA also reporting investigators are asking neighbors in the Catalina foothills to check their doorbell cameras for footage from January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight. That's 3 weeks before Guthrie went missing, and from the morning of January 31st, 9:30 to 11. The community on edge, worried especially for older neighbors.
The thought of this happening to any of them is scary and sad, and yeah, I hope she comes back home so we can all feel safe again and so that her family can be happy.
Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie and her siblings have called for the public's help to bring their mother home. And the Pima County Sheriff's Department says they've received 18,000 calls since Nancy's February 1st disappearance, with a surge after the FBI released this recovered video of someone tampering with her doorbell camera. Following one lead, Pima County investigators detained and then released a man on Tuesday and searched a property in southern in Arizona. Authorities have not identified who they detained or why, but this man, Carlos Palazuelos, says it was him and he's innocent, noting investigators showed a relative photos of a masked man.
And they supposedly look like my eyes.
He says he delivers packages in the Tucson area but had nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance as the community rallies to bring her home. Here in Washington, President Trump has said all federal law enforcement resources are available to help in the search, while Arizona Senator Mark Kelly said he spoke with the Pima County Sheriff, who assured him he had a couple hundred investigators working with the FBI and doing everything possible to bring Nancy Guthrie home. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
This morning, new details into a man accused of stabbing his wife to death in St. Cloud over the weekend. 23-year-old Dylan Tobler is now in jail, charged with murder for allegedly killing his wife, 22-year-old Haley Tobler. These charges come less than 2 weeks after Dylan pled guilty to a misdemeanor for choking Haley. That choking incident took place over the summer when Haley also told police her husband was making suicidal threats, having delusions, and also has a history of aggressive behavior. Charles Hempeck leads Anna Marie's Alliance in St. Cloud, an organization that's been around for nearly 50 years with a stated vision of a world free of relationship abuse.
If you suspect someone you know may be in a relationship that's not healthy or abusive, I would say be willing to talk to them about it. Even if you're mistaken and they're not, it's better to be wrong in that way than wish later on you would have said something earlier if something happens.
Violence Free Minnesota oversees more than 90 programs across the state working to end relationship abuse. They say at least 31 Minnesotans were killed in 2025 because of intimate partner violence, though that number could be higher because of inequities in reporting. The victim in this case is the daughter of a former St. Cloud City Council member who is running for Minnesota governor but has since suspended his campaign. Developing this morning, a person is dead and several others are seriously injured after a bus carrying a college baseball team crashed in northern Iowa. That crash happened around 11 yesterday morning, about 100 miles northwest of Des Moines. Officials say the bus with the Iowa Lakes Community College baseball team was on the way to a game in Arkansas when it went off the road and flipped into a ditch. Iowa State troopers say the bus was the only vehicle involved here. They say 33 people were on board the bus, officials declaring it a mass casualty incident.
Everybody on board had some sort of injury, but anywhere from minor to serious injuries. We had life flight helicopters that came to the scene and ambulances from several other hospitals in the area, and those who were injured were taken to the hospital.
Officials are still looking into what caused the crash. Iowa Lakes Community College says it's working to get more information from local authorities and supporting those affected. Governor Walz has authorized $1.2 million to help St. Paul recover from a cyber attack last summer. Last night, the governor said the response required more resources than the city could handle and that the money is meant to restore critical systems. St. Paul officials said the incident exposed about 50 gigabytes of data from the Parks and Rec Department. Just in this morning, Jessie Diggins sliding into a bronze medal in the women's cross-country skiing 10K. Diggins battling through the pain of a bruised rib that she suffered earlier this week. The bronze is Diggins' fourth Olympic medal and says this will be her final Olympic Games. She plans to retire after the cross-country skiing season finale in New York next month. Well, if there's one event to watch at the Olympics, figure skating might be it. The United States has about the strongest group of skaters ever to compete at the Olympics, with the top skaters in the men's and women's fields as well as ice dancing. Alicia has a closer look.
On the cold ice at the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy, U.S. figure skaters are heating up the competition.
I think skating is becoming more dominant in the United States because of our athletes from around the country.
With one of the strongest U.S. teams to ever compete at the Winter Games.
I mean, to have 3 world champions right now and a repeat world champion, or 2 repeat, I think, world champions at that.
World champion. Ilya Malin is the #1 ranked male skater.
We're all just a team of athletes who represent Team USA, and it's just such an honor to be one of those amazing athletes.
Alyssa Liu is the #1 ranked female.
I put so much work into them, like costumes, choreography, and like just vibe of it. And I'm just really excited to display my art.
Ice dancers Madison Chalk and Evan Bates are 3-time world champs and ranked #1.
Absolutely. We have some incredibly talented athletes, the best in the business for sure.
Skating alongside powerful teammates.
Amount of sheer talent and hard work that this next Olympic team is going to have, no matter who is on it, I know that it is going to be a great and very successful and medal-filled event.
That in Milan is making figure skating the sport to watch at the 2026 Winter Olympics.
Make sure you stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.